You know how everyone says the 2024 election was a total nail-biter, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, rumor has it that Donald Trump had a secret weapon.
Oh, really?
And it wasn't who you'd expect at all.
Okay.
We're talking about Barron Trump, the youngest son.
Yeah.
And the claim that he played a big role in, swaying young voters over to his dad's side.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. It's like we always kind of overlook the influence of people who aren't really in the traditional political world,
Right.
Like Barron, with his, relative privacy, but this undeniable connection to, a super polarizing figure like his father.
Totally.
It's like a fascinating case study.
It is. It's like this hidden force shaping how people see things, especially now with social media being such a big deal. But before we get into all that, let's rewind a bit and unpack Barron's background. It's not your average childhood, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Imagine being raised in a lavish penthouse in Trump Tower, going to these super prestigious schools like Columbia Grammar and Prep in New York City, and then moving into the White House at 10 years old.
Yeah, wow.
That was Barron's life. He even went to St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland before finishing high school at Oxbridge Academy in Florida.
And don't forget the constant Secret Service detail.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And sources even suggest that he might have used fake names in school records for security reasons.
Wow.
Talk about a unique upbringing.
Yeah.
But through all of that, how did he turn out personality-wise?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Despite this really unusual upbringing, former classmates describe him as surprisingly, normal, even funny and sociable.
Oh, wow.
One even told the Daily Mail that he'd have these, random, really entertaining conversations. It really challenges that whole image of him being isolated that you see in some media.
There, and Barron comes out, and we go sit down and have dinner with Barron. Now, you got to realize, I'm so curious who this kid is, right? He just turned 18 years old, March 20th. And so you're watching him. So what are you going to be doing? You're going to go to school, you're going to do this, and he's kind of going through the whole process, what he's not going to be doing, what he's going to be doing. I've never seen Tom laugh this hard for an hour and a half. Tom is one of those guys that if we go to dinner, no one's going to talk more than Tom. And Tom can go. He's a professional talker, and he's going to give you a lot of history lessons, everything, because he's so well read. He's a modern day Wikipedia. The living Wikipedia is Tom Ellsworth. Yeah. If Wikipedia goes out of business, we're all safe here.
We're good.
We're good.
Check Tom.
Tom didn't say a single word.
Yep.
Nothing, Jesse. For an hour and a half, and we just watched Barron run dinner with stories, entertainment, everything. What was your experience watching that?
Because mind you, he's 18. You know what I was when I was 18? I was in the military. I was acting like a freaking maniac. Witty, smart, hilarious, he was smart on politics. He's like, everybody's always going to fight. There's left, there's right. I think one of the hardest I laughed is when he goes, look, because all of a sudden the music just comes on loud, right, Jesse? And we're like, what the hell is that? He's like, my freaking dad's the DJ. All you see is the president on his iPad, the lights in his face.
Nothing compares. Nothing compares to you. Like, are we really playing?
And I love it because you look back and it's Donald Trump, the light on his thing, and Barron's like, guys, I'll be in my room and the house is shaking. My dad plays the music loud. But going back to Barron, what a good head on his shoulders, professional. Then at the end, he was literally, he was like, Vinny, whenever you guys want to come dinner, whenever you want to come, blah, 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 you hit me up. He goes, you know what I like?
Amazing.
Amazing.
One of the stories he told. So I don't know who starts telling the story, saying, my dad comes from trailer homes and
Bo, it was Bo. Bo was like,
and Kobe and this and this and that. And everybody's kind of talking about their sob story. Yeah. And then Barron's like, same here. I mean, I was born in a penthouse of a building all the way at the top. Life was hard. Talked about being fed by a silver spoon. Dude. Who would ever eat food with a silver spoon? Mine was gold.
It's almost like we're just getting these little pieces of a life that's been kept intentionally private.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder how much of what we see is the real Barron and how much is a carefully made image.
A good point. We're dealing with someone who, despite his father's fame, deserves some privacy. But let's shift gears a little and talk about this supposed influence on young voters during the 2024 election. Some say he was advising his dad on some unconventional campaign strategies, especially when it came to new media. What can you tell us about that?
This is where it gets super interesting. Several sources claim that Barron was the one who pushed his dad towards podcasts, particularly ones that are popular with Gen Z and millennials. He apparently saw how powerful these platforms were to reach a younger audience that doesn't really pay attention to traditional media.
So are we saying Barron Trump The teenager was out there strategizing like some seasoned political pro?
Well, that's the story going around, and it's a pretty compelling one. Think about it. Donald Trump, known for his, strong personality and love of the spotlight, appearing on shows like Joe Rogan's podcast and comedian Theo Von's podcast.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of surprising.
This is a surprising move, and some people say a brilliant one.
And was there any proof that this strategy actually worked? Did it actually resonate with those young voters?
It's tough to say for sure. But there's definitely anecdotal evidence to suggest those podcast appearances, especially the one on Joe Rogan's show, generated a ton of buzz online and in the media.
So let's break this down a bit more. Why would a podcast appearance be more effective than, say, a traditional TV interview? What's the secret sauce here?
It's about authenticity and being relatable. Those podcasts are often unscripted and conversational. They allowed Trump to present himself in a way that felt more genuine to younger people. It was like he was skipping the filter of the mainstream media and speaking right to them on their level.
You're saying it was less about policies and more about personality.
It's a mix of things, of course. But there's no denying that Trump's ability to connect with voters on a personal level, even if they disagreed with his policies, played a huge part in his appeal. And it seems like Barron might have been the key to recognizing how powerful these new media platforms could be to boost that personal connection.
So was it a calculated strategy, or was it more like Barron just intuitively understood how online culture works?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it brings up a bigger conversation about the role young people play, especially those connected to powerful figures in shaping the political scene. Are they becoming more influential than traditional political strategists? Is this like a new age of campaigning where authenticity and being good with digital stuff trumps experience and political capital?
That is a lot to think about. So we have this intriguing young man raised in extraordinary circumstances with a possible knack for getting online culture. But what else do we know about Barron? What's he like as a person?
Well, we know he's currently 18 and attending NYU, one of the most high-profile universities in the world. Yeah. And there's this really interesting detail that keeps popping up: his height. He's reportedly 6'7".
Oh, that's tall. I can even picture that Barron towering over everyone on campus.
Right.
His dad even joked about him playing basketball.
Yeah, I saw that.
Though it seems Barron actually prefers soccer.
Exactly. And he's bilingual, speaks both English and Slovenian, his mother's native language. It says something about how diverse his upbringing was, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's those little things that add another layer to the whole story. We have these snippets from former classmates describing him as very entertaining, able to start the most random conversation.
Yeah, and then there's that peculiar detail about him never eating lunch at school.
Oh, yeah.
Preferring to wait until he got home.
Right. Remember we talked about that earlier?
Yeah.
It's so strange. Was it like a health thing, or was he a picky eater? Or a security thing? Who knows?
It just adds to the mystery, doesn't it?
For sure.
But it also shows how much we don't know. For all the talk about his political smarts, we have no clue about his actual views.
That's true. I mean, he did vote for his father in the recent election.
Yeah.
Melania even shared a photo of him at the ballot box on X.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Although apparently that's illegal in Florida.
Whoops.
But aside from that one thing, Barron's been incredibly quiet about his own political beliefs.
Yeah, which is understandable. He's entitled to his privacy, especially at such a young age.
Definitely. But this whole thing really gets you thinking. In a world where social media is everywhere, how much influence do people like Barron, who are relatively private but connected to powerful people, really have on shaping public opinion, especially among young voters? Is it intentional or just a side effect of them being online?
That's the real question, isn't it? It's a new world of political engagement, and we're all still trying to figure it out. Think about what this means for future campaigns. Are we going to see a shift towards more behind-the-scenes figures like Barron who get online culture becoming more important than traditional campaign strategists?
It's a fascinating thought. But let's not forget about the role of traditional media in all this. How did the media react to this whole Barron a secret weapon idea? Did they believe it?
Well, there was definitely a lot of speculation and analysis going on, especially after those podcast appearances. Some outlets painted him as this mastermind controlling things from behind the scenes. Others were more cautious to back up those claims.
So a mixed bag of reactions makes you wonder how much of this story was driven by the media's own need for a juicy story.
Totally. And it raises some ethical questions, too. Is it fair to scrutinize someone so young, even if they are connected to a powerful figure? Where's the line between public interest and privacy?
It's a tough balance. And it's not just about Barron.
Right.
It's about the role family members play in general when it comes to politicians. Think about Melania Trump. She's famously protective of Barron and always put his privacy first. How do you think she dealt with all of this?
She's always been a bit of an enigma, hasn't she? Navigating that first lady role with a blend of grace and distance. It's hard to know how much influence she's had on Barron, but she's undoubtedly a huge force in his life.
It makes me wonder what their family dinners are like. Do you think they break down political strategy over dessert?
Haha, now that's a podcast I'd listen to. But seriously, it shows how blurry the lines are between personal and political life, especially for families like the Trumps. Everything they do, even something as ordinary as a family dinner, becomes something the public scrutinizes and speculates about.
It's a good reminder that even though we're focusing on Barron and his potential influence, he's still part of a bigger family. We can't completely separate him from that.
Exactly. And it makes the story even more complex and fascinating, right?
Yeah.
We have this young man still figuring himself out, caught in the middle of political power, media scrutiny, and public fascination. It's like a Shakespearean play unfolding in the digital age.
And we're all watching, hooked on the unfolding story. But let's switch gears for a second and talk about the bigger implications of this whole situation.
Yeah.
What does Barron's story, whether he meant to or not, tell us about how political campaigning is changing?
I think it shows how powerful authenticity and relatability are in a world that's increasingly skeptical of traditional institutions and authority figures. Voters, especially younger ones, want candidates who feel genuine, who speak their language, who engage with them on their platforms. And that's where people like Barron come in. They get these new platforms, they know how to connect with audiences in a way that feels natural, and they're not afraid to shake things up.
So it's not just about being the child of someone powerful anymore. It's about knowing how to use social media and new media to connect with certain groups of people.
Exactly. And it's about realizing that the line between what's personal and what's political is getting blurry, especially online.
Yeah.
Everything you do, every post you, like every comment you make, it all contributes to your online image and shapes how others see you.
It's like we're all campaigning all the time, even if we're not running for office.
In a way, yeah. We're all shaping our online selves, creating stories about who we are and what we believe in. And that's powerful, especially when first impressions are often made online.
It's a great point and something for us all to consider. It's been a fascinating look into the life of Barron Trump and the changing landscape of modern politics. Thanks for joining us.